Here are a few clips from the 2023 Golden Globes, hosted by a man who does not deserve to have his name looked up.
Just drinking tea. Really, I'm honored to be making this phone call. He said, one, it's a great opportunity. Thank you for the call. And I told her about how last year didn't hear. She was like, I called Steven back and I said, I'm happy to do this. I got an email from my publicist saying that Helen, I know a trap when I hear a trap. Drut, Helen really just wants to educate you.
And I thought my jokes were bad.
For the sake of convenience, I will assign this host a name using a fantasy name generator. Okay, Eldwid Martef. Fantastic. Now, Eldwid, God bless him, should never have been on that stage. This is not a case of a competent comedian turning in an awful performance on a bad night. This abysmal Golden Globes ceremony was the predictable result of diversity hiring. Eldwid, no matter how much time he had to prepare, would never have been anything other than a sentient sleeping pill on the night. He got the gig because he's black and he's gay. It was so obvious that Eldwid Martef was a diversity hire who had no business being on a high-profile stage that even Eldwid himself knew he was a diversity hire.
I'm here because I'm black. I'm only being asked to host this, I know, because I'm black.
I'm black and I'm gay. And
no, I assure you, Mr. Reflection, I hired you solely on the basis of your immense talent. You're not only a cherished member of this channel, you are a shining example of how DEI isn't necessary to...
Fuck you! Fuck you! Get the fuck out of here! Fuck you, man. Get the fuck...
Now, Carrie, behave yourself. We all know you're sore because Mr. Reflection won a prestigious award last year and you won nothing for your banal portrayal of a series of stock emotions in Meisterbetro. If you want to win awards, stop acting in boring, pretentious shite like She Said and Oscar bait biopic 3753 in performances that scream, give me an Oscar in every breath and movement. Get a better fucking agent and start acting in movies people might actually want to watch. Just don't take your frustration out on my boy, Mr. Reflection. Apologies for the rude interruption, Mr. Reflection. You were saying?
it was provocative because people had never seen black people.
Eldwid Martef's performance as host was so awful that even the mainstream press couldn't pretend otherwise. Golden Globes 23 was immediately decried as the worst Golden Globes of all time, though the 2024 host did give Eldwid a run for his money.
Robert De Niro's here. Yo, I got the gig 10 days ago. You want a perfect monologue? Yo, shut up.
The Eldwid Martef debacle is just one tiny, forgotten example of how DEI is making almost everything in modern entertainment fucking suck.
We were on the brink of extinction.
I am well aware that DEI destruction is not limited to nominal entertainment, but has become an omnipresent evil that is having a radioactive toxic waste effect on everything it comes into contact with. But rather than make a video that ends up being yet another logical, moral, and ideological treatise on the wrongs of DEI, I instead want to focus on the fruits of this demon tree, because that tree is growing. DEI is not a fad. It is a parasitical retrovirus that has bound itself to Hollywood's DNA and which will continue to cause immense damage before any attempt is made to combat it. As anyone who has ever worked can attest, bad things happen when you promote hacks to their level of incompetence. And as anyone who has watched a Hollywood production in the past few years can attest, nightmares come to life when you promote diversity hacks far beyond their level of competence. So let's examine some of those things.
Tell me where the Jedi
In 2022, Disney Lucasfilm released the Obi Wan Kenobi show. It featured pretentious neo-noir lighting that made many scenes unwatchable, horrendously clumsy use of shaky cam in action sequences, a directing technique that had become universally despised by the time it fell out of common usage over a decade earlier. In a directorial choice that can only be described as bizarre, the show featured distant, wide-shot shaky cam, which, when combined with the appalling lighting, resulted in a truly disgusting visual spectacle. The director even chose to use shaky cam in placid character interaction. In this scene, Obi-Wan is feeling dejected, defeated, and lethargic. The camera should reflect this by holding the fuck still. Instead, it bobs around like the cameraman is drunk. The director almost certainly would not be able to articulate why she chose shaky cam for this scene. She was probably just trying to convey to the audience that she was an artiste, and felt this would best be achieved by mounting the camera atop the shoulders of an 8-year-old child. The lightsaber choreography was a disgrace. The worst Star Wars had ever seen up to that point, though arguably surpassed thereafter by Rosario Dawson's pensioner calisthenics lightsaber fighting style in Ahsoka. The props looked cheap and fake. The staging was amateur and ugly. Shot composition often came off as random and jarring. To give one example of literally hundreds, there is a character whose name I'm not looking up, but who played the smoking hot Ilaria Sand in Game of Thrones. Obi-Wan Kenobi's lead character, Reva, is storming a hidden base with a platoon of stormtroopers, and Ilaria is holding off the entire platoon by herself because... Why is the camera glaring up at her in a gaudy close-up? Whose perspective is this? Would it not make more sense to show her from Obi-Wan's perspective, or Reva's? If the director wanted a neutral third-person perspective shot, why this grotesque, sudden, jarring close-up from below? The editing in Obi-Wan was so bad at times as to be incomprehensible. To give one example, there is a garishly hideous sequence in which Obi-Wan Kenobi's lead character, Reva, has entered the Matrix and is jumping around the roofs of buildings for no identifiable reason. This sequence is spliced with a chase scene in which a peripheral character named Obi-Wan is trying to catch a female toddler who the writers wish us to believe is Princess Leia. Watch this part of the sequence. What in the hell was that? Why would she put that little jump cut in there? What is it? What is its function? What does it communicate? The editing in Obi-Wan was so obviously terrible that a film editing enthusiast re-edited the entire series into a 2.5-hour movie, which was, by all accounts, much better than the series. To give one example, the editor turned the farcical Baby Leia Benny Hill chase in the forest, in which Flea and his gang struggle to capture a poorly coordinated toddler, from this nonsense into this.
She runs away into the forest and encounters the mercenary, but then we cut it here. No need for the stupid chase, which is truly one of the worst choreographed sequences in all of Star Wars. She's a 10-year-old girl up against trained adult mercenaries. She just gets captured straight away. Done.
All of these technical problems with the Obi-Wan show, and there are many more, have nothing to do with the script. They are the result of bad directing. The director of all 6 episodes of Obi-Wan was Deborah Chow. She was also executive producer. Chow had previously directed 2 episodes of The Mandalorian and had a few years' experience as a journeyman TV director, working under the close supervision of executive and lead directors. On Obi-Wan Kenobi, she was not only left unsupervised in her direction, but was given total control of the directorial presentation of the entire series. Chow was placed in this position, one she was not qualified for, because she is an Asian woman. Chow was promoted far beyond her level of incompetence, and the result was a show which is increasingly regarded as the worst thing Disney Lucasfilm have ever done. Yes, surely Lucasfilm couldn't possibly ever have made anything worse than the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, right?
The power of
The Obi-Wan script was Diaonga-infested garbage water, and the show was always going to be terrible, but the awful direction combined with the garbage script created the perfect shitstorm, one which tore apart what little hope was left for the franchise and alienated the last few holdouts of the Star Wars legacy fanbase.
So in that Star Wars video I made, I said that Obi-Wan was the last time I dared let myself get hopeful for something Star Wars related. And
I don't know if Star Wars is recoverable. I mean, I checked out after Obi-Wan, right?
Yeah.
And with regard to the show's casting,
We will find you!
the less said about that, the better. In the summer of 2022, a movie called Bros briefly appeared in cinemas, bombed, and was quickly forgotten about. The writer, executive producer, and lead actor of Bros was a well-connected wannabe named Billy Eichner, a man who had never written or produced a movie before. Eichner made his name as a one-trick pony on late-night TV, doing brief segments called Billy on the Street, during which he would accost random members of the public and make them feel uncomfortable with his uber-flamboyant gayness.
Meg Ryan.
What?
Oh, forget it.
Miss, do you want to be Tina Fey's new friend?
I know.
Oh, sorry.
Well, you bitch.
Have you gotten your Madonna tickets yet?
Hell no.
Why?
Bros lost the studio that made it, Universal, around $60 million. It is unlikely that a rom-com about two middle-aged homosexuals giving monogamy a shot was going to be a smash hit, despite what the mainstream press was asserting prior to the movie's release. But the sheer scale of Bros' failure massively surpassed even the most optimistic projections. Commercial failure aside, the movie was absolute junk. I did a video explaining in detail why this vile dreck is so disgustingly bad, and I admit that it would not be unjust to refer to me as a biased source when it comes to a critical analysis of the utter shite that is Bros, given that I would rather share a peach with Timothée Chalamet than be subjected to the auditory calamity that is Billy Eichner's voice.
Am I gonna get butt-fucked by Jason Momoa while we're both, I don't know, worrying about a volcano?
So here's the reaction of the Despot's ally, Echo Chamberlain, following his initial viewing of the movie.
I thought generally that the vibe was that it's a good-hearted, intelligent film that couldn't quite find its audience. But I watched it, and no, it's awful. It has no merit. The jokes don't land. It's utterly narcissistic. It's got the most horribly awkward needle drops. It's flat in tone. It's full of ludicrous shifts. And the big thing for me is just in terms of the narcissism.
Billy Eichner was promoted vastly beyond his level of competence because he was a flamboyantly gay man. The result was the second biggest box office bomb of 2022. But every cum-filled peach has a sweet juice inside it, and Bros was both the beginning and the end of Billy Eichner's movie career. He should have gone out with some class, like an acrid fart dancing away in the wind. Instead, he decided he would end his film career with all the grace of a diuretic explosion in an elevator and took to Twitter to blame straight people for his piece of shit movie's failure. If Eichner lived in reality instead of in a bubble of activist morons,
This is a historical film, first of its kind.
he might have realized that most couples are not interested in spending their evening watching two middle-aged gay men fuck, and that a guy is more likely to get laid by treating his woman to a screening of the brutal 1979 British film Scum than by watching Bros with her.
What you want? Turn him over. Please no!
Honey, this movie isn't exactly what I had in mind for date night. Maybe we should try something else.
Darling, the Despot of Antrim has assured me that Scum is one of the great British films of its generation. Try to enjoy the visual symbology and brutalist aesthetic employed by the director, particularly prominent in this scene.
Before I get on to our next item, the Marvels, Bill O'Reilly will be weighing in with his in-depth analysis of the movie in our second episode of Bill O'Reilly Reviews.
Fucking thing sucks! Fuck it!
Thanks, Bill. The Marvels has already become a byword for massive budget disaster. It cost $275 million and cratered at the box office, barely scraping $200 million, making it, according to Wikipedia, the third biggest box office bomb of all time. The damage the MCU suffered from the Marvels debacle was not limited to the massive financial loss to Disney. The movie is widely considered to be the worst MCU movie and the worst modern superhero movie. It was my personal pick for the worst movie of 2023. The Marvels has become a kind of poster boy, or poster girl, I should say, for the collapse of the MCU. The movie did considerable damage to the MCU brand, which was already faltering in the wake of Ant-Man 3 and countless Disney Plus series that no one watched.
I cannot finish the shows. The only show I've actually been able to watch start to finish is Loki. It's the only one I've enjoyed. All of the other ones I've dropped after like 3 episodes. They're so fucking boring.
The Marvels also confirmed Brie Larson as the worst casting decision in the history of the MCU, and was yet another boulder on the back of an already broken career. That said, I unironically liked Brie Larson in Fast X. I have no idea what the function of her character was in the movie, but I do remember her materializing on a bridge, dressed in a bright blue suit and wearing Converse, I think, and carrying a submachine gun. If I recall correctly, she was sent to the bridge by the script because it needed someone to save Vin Diesel from Jason Momoa during a helicopter shootout scene. You know, it's almost sad that Hollywood took a genuinely talented actress who deservedly won an Oscar for her excellent performance in Room and turned her into this.
You guys wouldn't happen to know how these things come off, would you? No? Fine.
I mean, who the fuck looked at her performance in Room?
We call him Old Nick. I don't know what his real name is. But he pretended his dog was sick.
What's the dog's name?
Jack, there wasn't a dog.
And thought, you know what she is? An action star. Take this as a lesson, Hollywood. Some people just aren't cut out for certain roles. I was not intended by the fates to be a shampoo model.
Pert Plus. Sure, I've tried some other 2-in-1s, but for me, Pert Plus is the best. Pert Plus cleans thoroughly and conditions better.
And Brie Larson can't do action roles.
It's over, Darben.
Oh, and while we're here, neither can Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Fast X is probably somewhere around the 10th worst movie of 2023 for me. My bottom 5 are The Marvels, Indy 5, Meisterbetro, Napoleon, and Poor Things, 2 of which received an Academy Award nomination for Best Picture. The Marvels was directed and co-written by Nia DaCosta. She was selected as the director of this near $300 million Marvel project due to her direction on the massive smash hit successes Little Woods, which brought in a box office haul of almost $172,000, and Candyman, which was the 50th highest grossing movie of 2021 and only lost out on 49th place due to the immense success of Booney Bears the Wildlife.
Beautiful.
And she did a student movie called The Black Girl Dies Last, which she also acted in, but it doesn't have a Wikipedia page, so we don't know anything about it. So yeah, that about qualifies her for a project spanning 54 studio sets and involving a crew of thousands. Right? In spite of her impeccable resume and the enormous potential heralded by her spectacular direction of the mid-credits scene in episode 6 of Ms. Marvel, Nia DaCosta's directing on The Marvels did not live up to expectations. To say her direction was incompetent would be an understatement. It was atrocious. Everything was wrong with the movie. Editing, in one scene Ms. Marvel shows up in her costume despite being in different clothes seconds before. CGI. The CGI in... Fuck it, just watch this scene of Diversity Hire 8475 being supercharged to go fix a plot hole by creating another plot hole. Fight choreography. In this scene, 8475 is under attack from Tom Hiddleston's wife and the Invisible Man, so Captain Marvel shows up and launches herself straight at the Invisible Man. Actually, I suspect they gender swapped the Invisible Man, so that was probably the Invisible Woman, who is also black and gay.
Reflection of myself, reflection of myself, reflection of myself.
The pacing in the Marvels was horrific, a non-stop, breakneck, nauseating spectacle that only slowed down once to demonstrate how little screen chemistry the three female leads had in a rocky training montage, but with all the charisma, struggle, drama, and awesome music taken out. With the notable exception of Iman Vellani, the actresses on screen looked like they would rather be hanging out in the 8th layer of hell, sharing a peach with Timothée Chalamet and keeping company with Bros, Women Talking, episode 2 of the new season of Doctor Who, Brendan Schaub's stand-up comedy specials, and Jaden Smith's acting career.
You're wrong!
That kid could not act his way out of a graveyard by pretending to be alive. That is a face for radio and a voice for silent movies.
I'm not a coward!
There are more plot holes in the Marvels than there is buyer's remorse at a Brendan Schaub stand-up special.
She was fighting with me. It's like, Fauci, Delta, mask, what are we gonna do? I see myself, oh my God!
My Marvels video has a 7-minute long section during which I list the movie's plot holes. I don't go into detail on any of them, I just list them and occasionally offer a brief commentary. It took me 7 minutes to get through all the plot holes, and I didn't even get close to covering all of them, as there were many that I missed. I am not suggesting that The Marvels was ever going to be a success. Jaden Smith had a better chance of winning an Oscar for his performance in After Earth than The Marvels did of making money, but The Marvels didn't need to lose as much money as it did, do as much damage to the MCU brand as it did, and be as bad as it was, by flat out ignoring the fact that Nia DaCosta was totally unqualified to co-write and direct a large-scale Marvel project. Disney turned what should have been a forgettable failure into an absolute fucking catastrophe. But I guess Disney were so enamored with Littlewoods that they just had to have Nia DaCosta.
Closest place for an abortion, she said. Where is it? Hundreds of miles away.
Yes, that's why they hired her. Because of Littlewoods. The next piece of putrid fruit spawned of the DEI demon tree we will be examining is Rings of Power. But before we get on to our brief retrospective of one of the worst chapters ever written in the history of human crime, I want to talk to you about today's sponsor. We here at Team Despot are very excited to announce our new partnership with Amazon Prime. As part of this partnership, Amazon have agreed to debut the new trailer for their upcoming fantasy tour de force, Rings of Power Season 2, on this channel in this video. Enjoy.
Frodo?
That hairline was broken. It has been remade.
I remember my grandmother saying to me, I don't care what they tell you in school. Sauron was black.
She has become an icon.
The wig is treacherous. It will not hold you to your word.
You have my sword. And you have my bow.
And my wig. I don't wear half my wigs half as much as I would like, and I wear less than half my wigs half as much as they deserve.
Somehow
Sauron
returned.
Before I get into how DEI contributed to the Rings of Power calamity, I first want to take a moment to salute the superb performance of the Lord of the Rings fandom in their response to Amazon's Rings of Power Season 2 trailer. The Tolkien fanbase is the greatest fanbase. Throughout Amazon's onslaught, they have stood united and defended Middle-earth from the onrushing darkness. Rings of Power has come to epitomize what I call the downtown LAization of fantasy, because Rings of Power, like every other modern fantasy show or movie, looks just like the downtown LA we live in today. During marketing for Rings of Power, Lindsay Weber, a producer on the show, said the following in an interview with Vanity Fair.
It felt only natural to us that an adaptation of Tolkien's work would reflect what the world actually looks like.
By which she meant what downtown LA actually looks like. I go into detail about the damaging effect that incongruous on-screen diversity has on world building and immersion in my Damsel video, in the chapter labelled The Downtown LA We Live In Today. Even with the ridiculous university campus diversity that made a mockery of Tolkien's beautifully crafted world build, The Rings of Power could still have been a fundamentally good show if it was well written. In fact, I proved as much by creating my own video treatment for season 2.
What I truly think a high value man is a man who could say no to pussy. And I mean this on a genuine level. Here's the problem. Here's the problem you girls don't understand.
Amazon rejected my season 2 treatment, a decision they are already coming to regret. But Rings of Power could never have been written well because it was being overlorded by Jennifer Salke, who hired 2 inexperienced bad reboot hatchlings as showrunners because they would be easily plied minions who she could bend to her will. The diversity hire chiefly responsible for the dreadful quality of Rings of Power wasn't stand-in Legolas, or Village Wench, or Bilbo Cosby, it was Jennifer Salke. A quick look through Jennifer Salke's IMDb page reveals that she has never worked on a TV or movie production, though she does apparently feature in 3 episodes of Nerdrotic. Prior to being hired as head of Amazon Studios, Salke was responsible for casting and diversity programming initiatives at NBC Entertainment. Despite the fact that this woman never worked on a single line of a script, never called action on a scene, never produced a movie, and was basically just a well-paid corporate suit who hung around trying to appear important, Amazon decided she had the requisite qualifications to run Amazon Studios and be placed in charge of billion-dollar productions. Jennifer Salke's first priority with Rings of Power was to put her experience as head of diversity programming initiatives at NBC to good use and make the Lord of the Rings franchise more female-centered. The result was this.
Grasping for a handhold in a tempest. There is a tempest in me. You will die because of me.
I cannot be defeated. If he dies, he dies.
Jennifer Salke was promoted far beyond her level of competence, and, well...
The sea is always right.
Nobody goes up faith.
And nobody walks alone. One cannot satisfy thirst by drinking seawater.
And the sea is always right.
A dog may bark at the moon, but he cannot bring it down.
Friend. Hearts even bigger than our feet.
Because a burden shared may either be halved or doubled, depending on the heart that receives it.
But you have not seen what I've seen.
I have seen my share.
You have not seen what I have seen.
Give me the meat and give it to me raw.
I'm good.
In 2023, DC released Hollywood's final attempt at a superhero origin story movie intended to create a new character franchise to cash in on superhero mania, Blue Beetle. This desperate last-minute gambit was so pathetic that it might actually have been vaguely pitiful had the failure of the movie not been so supremely satisfying. To say Blue Beetle was late to the party is an understatement to rival such assertions as Germany's invasion of Russia didn't go as well as planned. Japan's war against the United States did not produce the intended results. Davis's experience during the greenhouse incident was not entirely pleasant. Brie Larson's career may have been negatively impacted by her failed portrayal of Captain Marvel. After Earth did not give Jaden Smith's acting career the boost the movie was designed to provide him with.
You're wrong!
Blue Beetle was a guy showing up to a house party at 6 a.m. expecting to get laid. It was a 40-year-old man going to a high school reunion in 2024 wearing skinny jeans, a flannel shirt over a t-shirt and a man bun, hoping to impress his old crush Stacey Anderson, who recently divorced Chad Barlow. Blue Beetle was directed by some fucking guy. It doesn't matter. Is he Latino? Yeah, okay, just hire him. It's a Latino movie, so it has to be a Latino director. Otherwise, this will be a Latinx story being told by someone who isn't Latinx, someone who shouldn't be telling that story because it's not their story. It will be like when Frank Darabont wrote and directed The Shawshank Redemption, even though he's not a former convict and isn't black, despite the movie having a black character. Prior to being selected to direct Blue Beetle, a $125 million project, some fucking guy had directed 3 indie movies movies, 2 of which don't have a Wikipedia page. He had never directed even a mid-budget project. He had never worked in the superhero genre. He had never directed an action scene. His direction for Blue Beetle, while nowhere near as bad as the obscene levels of incompetence displayed by Nia DaCosta in The Marvels, was utterly flat, lacking in inspiration, originality, flair, and ingenuity, and entirely reliant on pre-established genre visuals. The main problem with the movie, though, was the script, which was essentially just an amalgam of characters and dramatic beats plundered from popular superhero movies of the preceding 20 years. The script for the movie could have been, and indeed may well have been, written by AI, but was purportedly assembled by Latino screenwriter. Prior to being hired for Blue Beetle, Latino screenwriter's biggest project was a 2019 movie called Miss Bala, which was a box office bomb and has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 22%. The only moment of genuine emotional impact in the entire movie was when the Red Lobster tries to help his Latino homeboy through a bout of constipation.
Yo, you can do this, Holmes. Show that shit who's boss. Okay, round 2, man. Come on, show that fucking through the door, hombre.
After Red Lobster helps Blue Beetle give birth to his sidekick, Brown Trout, there's a fight, and Susan Sarandon is there, I think. Then we learn that Red Lobster is only evil because of Ronald Reagan. Now, unfortunately for Red Lobster, trotting out a sob story simply isn't sufficient to get him off the hook, because he's a man, and when a man commits a lifetime of crime and murder, even if it was Ronald Reagan's fault,
That means that it is illegal.
and he must pay the price for it. Now, if he was a woman, this would be no problem. At the end of the Marvels, Dar-Ben is in the process of annihilating all life on Earth. But she gets wounded in her fight with the girl bosses, then says something redemptive, plus she has a sob story, so the girls decide to let bygone genocides be bygone genocides and give her a pass. They even give the genocidal war bitch a warning when she grabs the second magical bullshit device off Ms. Marvel's arm.
You won't survive this, Dar-Ben.
Because the last thing they want is for a genocidal maniac in the process of wiping out mankind to hurt herself. Recently, in the United States, a woman was given a suspended sentence after being found guilty of trying to murder her husband by poisoning his coffee with bleach over a period of several months. She wanted the life insurance money. Now, what Dar-Ben and Bleach White Widow have in common is that they are both women, and when a woman tries to eradicate all life on Earth, or bleach her husband to death,
That means that it is not illegal.
at the end of Poor Things, spoiler warning for anyone who is saving a viewing of Poor Things for a particularly masochistic day of penance, Emma Stone shoots her ex-husband in the foot when he tries to kill her. She then takes his body to her surgery and, with the help of her simp, removes her ex-husband's brain, then replaces his brain with the brain of a goat. Then we cut to a happy scene of Emma Stone and her friends good timing it while the ex-husband eats grass in a corner of the garden. Wait, hold on. Emma Stone murders her ex-husband, murders a goat, puts the goat's disembodied brain into the disembodied corpse of her husband, creating an obscenity that can really only be described as a torture toy, a cursed abomination that will live a short, miserable life as it tries in vain to feed its human body with food that body cannot process, resulting in a protracted, agonizing death. And the audience is supposed to view this as a happy ending? And even if feminism has demented your moral compass to the point that you agree with the filmmakers that this is indeed a happy ending because the evil, white, patriarchal, empire-building, FGM-inflicting man got what he had coming to him, what the fuck did the goat do? Why has this poor creature been condemned to an agonized death, trapped inside a dead man's corpse? The word sadism doesn't even begin to describe the vileness of the atrocity Emma Stone has committed here, because even the Marquis de Sade could never, had he lived to enjoy 120 years of Sodom, never have imagined an act that sank to this level of moral depravity. And judging by the cushy spot Emma Stone has set herself up in to enjoy the spectacle of the goat man's tortuous death, she has birthed this horror not out of a misplaced sense of justice, but rather for the sheer pleasure of it. She is a murderous, animal-torturing, psychotic demoness, and we, the audience, are expected by our Hollywood betters to root for this despicable bitch's bastard. Because when a woman murders her husband and desecrates his corpse by implanting a goat brain in it, creating a consciousness that will suffer horribly as it dies in unimaginable pain.
That means that it is not illegal.
By the way, Eldwid Martef was in Poor Things. He demonstrated about as much charisma and presence in the movie as he did at the Golden Globes.
I actually wanted to hurt you. Couldn't bear to see such dumb, accept the lie of religion, socialism, capitalism. Why do you stay with you don't know the world, and you fear it?
Here is a list of superhero movie tropes that featured in Blue Beetle. Karen iPhone, hit that shit. We'll start with macro tropes. Claiming an identity first makes the movie new and fresh. This is the first time we have had a Latino superhero and a Latino-led superhero movie. It's new. The fact that the movie is an amalgam of played-out superhero tropes is irrelevant. Blue Beetle is original because tacos. Claiming an identity first that isn't actually an identity first. Blue Beetle is the first ever Latino superhero, except for Sue Storm, who was played by Mexican-American Jessica Alba, X-23 from Logan, who was Mexican, America Chavez, Namor from Wakanda Forever, played by Mexican Tena Huerta, and Ajak from The Eternals, played by Salma Hayek, who is Mexican as a tequila taco at a cartel-run bullfight. Well, break out the Timothée Chalamet brand peaches and get ready to do to your Kleenex what the Greenhouse Gang did to Davis Boys, because the mere mention of Salma Hayek has given me the excuse I wanted to play this clip. Our final macro trope: bullshit excuses when your garbage movie flops. The sole original idea that came out of the entire Blue Beetle debacle was the excuse Warner gave for the failure of this heap of shite, so large that an army of beetles would be unable to shift it. The weather did it. Now, the on-screen tropes. A hero goes to a desolate area to find a magical bullshit device, often called the artifact.
It's in there. I can feel it. It's in there. I can feel it.
Found mech suit.
What the hell is that? So weird.
The hero struggles in hilarious and near-fatal fashion on his first trial run with his newfound mech suit.
100 meters.
I don't want to see this.
Quippy comic relief side character.
I went swimming out there by where your family has that company. My testicles are 7 times their normal size.
Luis. I'm sorry, I'm good. I'm just excited. And plus your girlfriend's really hot, so, you know, that makes me nervous too. And you are very beautiful, ma'am.
Oh my lord.
The Genethnic family. Credit goes to Little Platoon for identifying this trope. He goes into detail on it in his Marvels video. The generically ethnic family consists of first-generation migrant parents and American-born children. The first generation's foreignness is expressed superficially in the form of tacos or funny accents, and they all have the same smothering parental style, which makes for wholesome comedy characterized by quirkiness, quippiness, and slapstick antics. Those crazy foreigners, they may be kooky, but behind the thin veneer of Vindaloo dishes and Indian robes, they're just like the rest of us. They're as American as an apple pie in a suburban crack house. The villain has similar powers as the hero, only he's bigger.
Can you stay with me?
You are still a scared little boy. For 30 years I've been holding you up.
The secret laboratory owned by one of the main characters' father.
Ted Cord was Blue Beetle?
Bad guy attacks hero's family.
Where is he? Deliver us!
Finish it!
The tragic death of Uncle Ben, Blue Beetle's dad. Our hero has a vision during a near-death experience, after which he awakens reinvigorated. hero jumps off a roof in an act of faith, then lets his powers do the rest.
Tally ho.
Bad guy gets his powers turned up to 11 in preparation for the final showdown.
How much of this have you used?
The blood increased the creature's power.
You do not deserve its power!
Our hero assembles a team and takes off to the final boss level, the villain's lair, for a final showdown.
Cap.
You know, I wouldn't have called if I had any other choice.
Hey, man. He can't have been here more than a few hours.
Long enough to wake him up.
¿Listos?
¡Listos!
Bad guy captures love interest and good guy has to go save her.
It's been too late for a long time now.
Darren.
But this is current year, and in current year, we subvert the damsel in distress trope, so this badass Latina lioness don't need no man to save her badass. Take that, damsel in distress trope! Man, if this shit were any edgier, Blue Beetle would cut himself trying to roll it into his hovel. The Batmobile. Heroes never kill.
Let's see what you got.
Eliminating threats.
No dodging, no killing.
All the minions die with no one batting an eye, but the big bad is allowed to walk away because killing is wrong. A tragic backstory makes the villain a sympathetic figure.
This country is confronting a brutal challenge.
The night of Order 66, you were a youngling.
Good guy is losing the final boss fight, then goes, ah! Then good guy, having successfully amped himself up, beats bad guy, but doesn't kill him because we're not the same. The big bad ends up killing himself at the end. This way the hero doesn't have to kill him because the hero doesn't kill people. The script can conclude the villain arc and the franchise can maintain the moral purity of our hero. Blue Beetle gets to have his ball of shit and eat it too.
Sacrifices must be made for the greater good.
The post-credit sequel bait teaser.
You know, if they find out he's here, they'll come for him.
Let them try.
Please, tell her that I love her and her dad is alive.
That last one absolutely screams 2010s. It's triggering my PTSD as flashbacks of man buns, side shaves, undercuts, hipster wankers, and Jennifer Lawrence lay siege to my cam.
You don't deserve this power. You do not deserve this power!
And those are just the tropes that I can remember from watching the movie once and having just now reread the Wikipedia page plot summary. The condemned souls of Beetles will be sliding their balls of dung across the frozen river Styx the day I watch Blue Beetle again. Blue Beetle was a predictable box office bomb, barely limping past its production budget and missing its break-even point by a distance comparable to the gap between Brendan Schaub's stand-up comedy and actual comedy.
I just want to be up front with everybody. Goddamn dick's down to here. Just fucking...
Shout out to Napoleon Blownapart for getting me on the Brendan Schaub hate train. Having now subjected myself to some of Brendan Schaub's stand-up, I'm seeing Eldwid Marteff's Grammy performance in a new light.
Huevos rancheros. Carne asada.
As otherworldly terrible as Eldwid was, at least now I can look at him and think, well, the Grammys could have done worse. Out of the 8 billion people on this planet, there is one who would have been a worse host than Eldwid.
And my favorite, chili.
Napoleon Blownapart is the best channel I've come across recently. He makes excellently researched, funny, and compelling MMA documentaries. His channel is a stream of cooling, fresh elixir in the junk-strewn YouTube landscape, where videos often look shiny and interesting amid the sea of trash, but when you pick them up and examine them, you see nothing but just another depressing piece of content. But as much as I have enjoyed Napoleon Blownapart's videos, there is one assertion he made in his video, The Decline and Fall of the Ultimate Fighter, that I need to push back on.
Bands that went to art school, but tried their best to look like art school dropouts. Personally, I always thought the Strokes were shite, even back in 2001.
I am not having that. The Strokes
were shite.
The Strokes
were shite.
An era-defining band whose song Last Night became an iconic early 2000s rock anthem. A band who have twice as many monthly listeners on Spotify as Jimi Hendrix
were shite.
Fuck right off. The Strokes were far worse than
shite.
They were all out shit. They were fetid shit that had been vomited upon and made to watch a Brendan Schaub stand-up comedy special. The Strokes was brain-dead junk rock, lacking anything even resembling personality. Is This It has the distinction of being one of the most overrated albums of all time. Don't believe me? Still think it's good even though you haven't listened to it in 18 years? Go back and listen to it. It's aged about as well as a ticket to a Brendan Schaub stand-up special 5 minutes into the show.
Fauci, Delta, Mass, what are we gonna do?
Here's a quick sample of a Strokes melody. Shapeless, repetitive, lazy, and boring. And the fucking singer's voice. I'm not looking up his name, I've forgotten his name, and that's the way it's gonna stay. He carefully contrived a vocal style designed to make it sound like he had just gotten out of bed hungover. Fuck off. Shove your sludgy, slacker, knock-off, tortured soul wannabe contrived vocal style up your arse, you tedious wanker. And the guy's lyrics are crap. Not even a fun kind of crap like What's Her Tits, the slag who did WAP.
Now get a bucket and a mop, that's some wet and gushy.
They're more like Taylor Swift crap, instantly forgettable generic shit you've heard a billion times from every bedroom guitarist that ever managed to inflict a song upon the world. Here's a sample from Is This It?
Oh dear, can't you see? It's them, it's not me, we're not enemies, we just disagree. If I was like him, all pissed in this bar, he changes his mind, says I went too far, we all disagree, I think we should disagree. Yeah, is this it?
Now, to quote Sauron from the Rings of Power teaser trailer,
you know, I'm something of a
lyricist
myself.
I'd say I wrote about 300 songs before I gave up on my dreams of rock stardom. I very deliberately and consciously tried to improve as a lyricist over that time and eventually ended up writing, and I don't mean to blow my own job here, some great lyrics. One of them is on screen presently for your reading pleasure. Here are a few of the rules of writing great lyrics that I discovered as a lone rock star playing to an audience of 2. Me and whoever my girlfriend was at the time.
The first rule of
writing lyrics
is you do not talk about
yourself too much. That is, you should avoid excessive use of first-person pronouns. I, me, my. First-person pronouns, when used sparingly, can give a song a nice narrative frame, but if used too much, they make the song sound repetitive, boring, and insular. An excellent example of a song that uses first-person pronouns brilliantly is Here Comes the Sun, the Beatles' most popular song. George Harrison only makes reference to the narrator 5 times. The listener gets the sense that the narrator is more focused on his beloved and on the pleasant change in weather than himself. The weather being a presumed metaphor for the couple coming through a rough patch in their relationship. In the aforementioned section of the Is This It? Lyric, the singer makes reference to himself in every single line of the first verse and 6 out of the 8 lines of the second verse. Massive overuse of first-person pronouns is a mistake that is repeated in every song on the album. The second rule of writing lyrics is you need to use vivid imagery. Leave abstract language for ontologists. A good song should paint a picture inside the mind of the listener. Example.
Wake
up at dawn and ask her why. A dreamer's dream, she never dies. Wipe that tear away now from your eye. Slowly walking down the hall, faster than a cannonball. Where were you while we were getting high?
Just that one verse contains so much rich imagery. The word usage, wake up, dawn, dreams, wipe that tear, eye, hall, cannonball. Even the last line, where were you while we were getting high, for me paints an image of a band of young guys chilling out together, getting stoned in their formative years. An image I can very much relate to. Now, let's examine the "is this it" lyric. Way too abstract. There is one image word in that entire verse, bar. And the bar isn't even described, it's just this bar. Not pissed in a dive bar or high at a jazz bar. No, just this bar. What bar? There's no imagery here. There is no setting the listener can relate to or contextualize the narrative within. Let's look at the next verse. Exactly the same mistakes. One image word, apartment, and the apartment has no description, so the word is largely abstracted rather than infused with mental imagery. The Strokes lyrics are all like this and are all built around the you and I framework. There are 4 types of narrative perspective in writing. First person, I, me, my. Second person, you. Third person, he, she, them. And purely descriptive, which is third person but without any pronouns or characters. A lot of Tom York's lyrics are purely descriptive. Almost 100% of beginner songwriters will write lyrics using a combination of first person and second person perspective. That is the you and I formula. I just checked, and all 12 songs on Is This It use the you and I formula, though on a few songs the singer uses a clumsy mix of first, second, and third person. Is This It is bollocks.
I always thought the Strokes were shite.
They were fucking terrible.
You're being a white man and don't! Indigenous person like you guys.
You have no doubt forgotten, Echo, but I have not. I was there when it released in January of 2024.
I was there 3,000 years ago.
Echo was like a parody of DEI. Okay, I was about to write, if South Park had made a parody of DEI, they wouldn't be able to come up with anything as farcical as Echo. But as I started writing that sentence, I realized South Park did do a parody episode of DEI, the excellent Into the Panderverse, and indeed, it didn't contain anything as farcical as Echo. It featured a race-swapped cast, a gender-bent character of ambiguous sexual anatomy, an all-female police department, and a Cartman-shaped Kathleen Kennedy from a parallel universe. None of that comes close to the sheer fucking farce that was Echo. A female Native American deaf amputee martial artist girl boss whose vaguely defined superpower is the ability to channel the superpowers of her girl boss ancestors. According to the modern rules of acting, actors are not allowed to play roles outside of their identity group because that would just be too much acting. So when Disney sent out the casting call for Amaya, they had to cast the only person who responded. Alaqua Cox had no acting experience and, unsurprisingly for a woman with one leg, no martial arts experience. The resulting fight choreography... The fight choreography was so hilariously terrible, it left the viewer with the impression that the only people on the planet even capable of losing a fight against Maya were Rosario Dawson and CM Punk.
Here we go!
The only good thing to emerge from the Echo catastrophe was that Alaqua Cox got a decent paycheck. The girl might not have been dealt quite as bad a hand in life as Brendan Schaub, since she does at least have a double-digit IQ, but no one can accuse her of having won the life lottery. The world is a dark place. It is a world of Eldwid Marteffs, Joe Coys, and Brendan Schaubs, men whose stand-up makes the brick wall behind them look like Dave Chappelle by comparison. It's a world of Jaden Smiths, Lily Rose Depps, and Ewan McGregor's daughter, talentless Napo babies who have a career handed to them on a silver platter alongside their lifelong get-out-of-work free card. This year, Clara McGregor starred alongside her father in a movie called Bleeding Love. Her performance was described by The Guardian as toe-curlingly terrible. The entertainment industry is a putrefying swamp of injustice. In 2019, Amazon paid Phoebe Waller-Bridge $60 million to do fuck all for 6 years because of her success with Fleabag. Now, I haven't seen Fleabag myself, and hell will be celebrating their resounding victory in the Winter Olympics the day I do, but I hear it's good for what it is. It was a well-received, commercially successful show. If a man had made Fleabag, he'd be given some credit and enough clout to get another project going fairly easily. But Phoebe Waller-Bridge was a woman in 2019, so instead of another slightly higher budget project, she got $60 million to do nothing for, what's it been now, Jennifer Salke? Head of Amazon Studios, former head of diversity initiatives at NBC, forger of Rings of Power. Almost 6 years now. Not a great deal, though it is at least a far better deal than paying Brendan Schaub any amount of money to make a stand-up special. The same year they gave Phoebe Waller-Bridge the GDP of a small island nation to do nothing, Amazon started production on their billion-dollar disaster, Rings of Power. Meanwhile, they paid Alaqua Cox minimum wage to work in one of their warehouses. Seeing a disabled girl who was working in an Amazon warehouse catch a fucking break and get a well-paid gig playing a diversity hire in some piece of Disney Marvel shite was genuinely uplifting. After being cast as Echo, Alaqua said the following in an interview.
I don't know why they're giving me this opportunity, but I'm just grateful. I'm just so grateful for all of the opportunities I've been given.
Fair play to Alaqua for getting herself out of that crap job and for her positive attitude. She seems like a genuinely lovely person. Alaqua Cox was absolutely fucking dreadful as Echo. Even viewers who were aware that she was an inexperienced actress criticized her for her flat, lifeless performance as Maya that she clearly didn't put much effort into. Echo was a painfully slow, boring show that took 5 episodes to go nowhere and do almost nothing. The only relief to be scraped from the bottom of this barrel of sewage was Vincent D'Onofrio. He had lost none of his charisma or presence as Kingpin from the Daredevil days. He carried every scene he was in with all the heroic effort of Joe Rogan carrying Brendan Schaub in one of their many podcast episodes. But the writing and dialogue was so terrible, Vincent D'Onofrio had so little to work with, that watching him try to salvage something from this ruin of a show was like watching Brendan Schaub try to get up after being KTFO'd by Roy Nelson. Big boy Roy hit Schaub so hard with that shot that Schaub woke up with an IQ of 9, making it the first ever instance of brain damage resulting in an improvement in IQ. The only actors on the Echo production working as hard as Vincent D'Onofrio were the stuntmen throwing themselves through the air in a futile attempt to make Alaqua Cox look even remotely threatening. Echo wasn't just bad, it was embarrassing.
Oh my sweet sugar-free Colombian vanilla fudge overpriced almond milk gender-neutral net zero fair trade soy frappe. Wow, just wow. Tell me you're an ableist without telling me you're an ableist. Okay, let's unpack this. Asserting that having a differently abled, Native American, non-hearing privileged non-man in a series will automatically result in that series being of low quality is incredibly narrow-minded. The problem with Echo wasn't the fact that it was an inspiring diversity showcase, it's that the writing wasn't up to standard with the incredible on-screen diversity. Many great characters in movies and shows have been differently abled, including Darth Vader, Professor X, Daredevil, Winter Soldier and Doctor Strange. Non-white, differently abled characters are here to stay, and as a white person, I'm here for it. Maybe if you stepped outside your parents' basement you would realize the world doesn't look like it did in the 50s, incel. Get a life you hopeless fucking chud. Marginalized people being able to see themselves represented in important cultural spaces such as Echo is literally everything. Mr. Reflection said it best.
For marginalized people, a lot of energy is devoted to justifying your existence in spaces. So when
Fuck you! Fuck you! Get the fuck out of here!
Alright, enough! Carrie, look what you've done. You've scared off Mr. Reflection, you spiteful, Oscarless hack! You're banned from the channel for one video, now get out!
I don't see you as a bad guy. I never have. I respect you.
I don't care, Carrie. You're still banned.
Fuck you!
Now, as to your points, non-playable sheep, your central thesis is, for once, not incorrect. Perhaps your recent exile did you some good. Echo didn't have to be terrible. Disney Marvel had everything they needed to make a compelling show. A protagonist with significant obstacles to overcome, a great villain in Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin, and a grounded setting with localized problems and relatable stakes. For once, the fucking multiverse wasn't in danger of imploding. The problem wasn't the box ticking on camera, it was the appalling writing that completely squandered the potential of the premise. Rather than treating Maya's amputation as a handicap that hindered her, and which she would have to work around, the writers basically just ignored it. At one point, she breaks her prosthetic and immediately gets it fixed. That's it. That's the only reference to her missing half her leg ever being a problem for her. Other than that, she kicks ass, beats up brawny thugs twice her size, jumps from a moving train onto a pickup truck, and girl bosses her way out of bad situations. If she needs something, the script provides her with it through a local ally. Not once in the entire show does she suffer the consequences of her reckless actions or go through any real struggle. Kingpin had no agency in the series. Not only does he not kill Maya following her attempted assassination of him, he simps after Maya for reasons that are never made clear. He behaves like a complete moron, letting Maya run rampage even after it becomes clear that she is an existential threat to him and his operation. The potential for scaled down stakes were never taken advantage of because Kingpin's motivations and goals never got beyond he wants Maya as a kind of stepdaughter for inexplicable reasons. If Maya had failed to take down Kingpin, the only consequence would have been her death, which would have been quite welcome. I have no desire to see a former professional murderess go on living, a former professional murderess who blew up a warehouse full of people with no regard to potentially innocent bystanders, who never showed any contrition for her work as an assassin or for the people she murdered in cold blood during that time. Maya endangered everyone close to her in her hometown, and when she's called out on her reckless behavior, her response is basically, whatever bro. She could not care less that she has endangered the lives of her family and friends. I hate Maya. She's an evil, sociopathic murderer and she deserves to die. But she's still the hero of our story because when a woman does all that horrible shit,
that means that it is not illegal.
The final scene in which Kingpin cries his eyes out because Maya got inside his head, literally, remains one of the most depressing and cringe moments in what has been so far an abysmal year for movies and shows. Echo was led by an all-female writing team because Maya is female, and directed by a Native American female director, Sydney Freeland, because Echo is a Native American female. Freeland was also one of the show's executive producers. Marvel did not give any consideration to whether or not these women were qualified to create a show that takes place in the Daredevil story world and features Kingpin, a classic and beloved villain. Marvel did not care if these women knew anything about Daredevil or had any experience with action sequences, or if they had the capacity or inclination to do the necessary research to learn about and understand the Daredevil world and characters. They had the correct sexual anatomy and racial background, so they were hired. Shockingly, it turned out that Sydney Freeland and her female-led writing team didn't understand the character of Kingpin or even how to present a compelling protagonist on screen. In their minds, Maya had a god-tier diversity score so the audience would get behind her, no characterization needed. Disney had so little confidence in the finished product that, in the only smart move they made during the entire Echo debacle, they dumped all 5 episodes of this corpse of a TV series, this Brendan Schaub of a project, in the early year content landfill where it belonged, alongside such irredeemable trash as Argyle, The Mean Girls remake and Madam Web. If only the production company, Thick Cook Boy, had the prescience to release Brendan Schaub's 2022 stand-up special, The Gringo Pappi, in the early year content dumping ground, maybe then no one would have noticed its existence.
No fucking way, bro!
The paradox of Brendan Schaub is that he is both utterly lacking in any discernible value and a valuable reminder that not all shite content needs DEI to be shite, it just needs Brendan Schaub.
That needle's not touching this fucking temple, daddy.
The Gringo Pappi currently has an IMDb rating of 1.1 out of 10. 92.4% of the 5,300 viewers that rated it gave it 1 star out of 10. The Gringo Pappi has a rating of 1.1 out of 10. That's lower than Velma. It's lower than Netflix's Cleopatra. It's the lowest score for anything I have ever seen. Unfortunately, a score this low obliges me, the Despot, to fulfill my despotic duty and review this torture device of a comedy special, which brings us to episode 4 of Drive-By Reviews. Karen iPhone, roll it.
Drive-by.
I have never seen the Gringo Pappi, so I will now play a brief segment of a fan-made Star Wars dogfight, which I ask you to imagine as a time warp within which I, the Despot, suffering on behalf of my subjects, subject myself willingly to all 25 minutes of Brendan Schaub's most recent attempt at stand-up. I'll see you on the other side.
May the Force be with you.
Torpedoes away! Watch out for that Bruno! Get all together! Watch out for those turbo lasers! Now let's suck my time! I love you guys! What the hell was that?
Fuck me. Okay, I was not prepared for that. I'm going to struggle to communicate just how bad that was. So Brendan Schaub spends 25 minutes talking about the banalities of his family life, and that's it. His big set-piece humorous anecdotes are the following. Actually, hold on. Karen iPhone, just play anything. I don't fucking care. Just anything that will lift my mood after the ordeal of passing through the black hole into which all joy of life disappears that is Brendan Schaub's stand-up.
Last night, she said...
Not fucking that! So Brendan Schaub's set-piece anecdotes are the following. He saw a guy on TV who got the jab during COVID, and the guy looked like a junkie, so that made people scared to get the jab.
There's always one guy. No fucking way, bro! That needle's not touching this fucking temple, daddy. He got dicey.
Brendan has a big dick, by the way.
If I'm being honest, one side effect, I just want to be up front with everybody. Goddamn dick's down to here. Just fucking...
He took his son to school and took a photo of his son and his son's friends and sent the photo to his wife, and his wife texted back, "Crop out the uglies," and then Brendan replied, "This is a group chat," and it's funny because the other parents saw Brendan's wife's assertion that the other kids were ugly.
Crop out the uglies, resend. What?
Of course, this doesn't make sense because if it was a group chat, then Brendan's wife would have known it was a group chat and not texted that the other kids were ugly. But it's funny, so it must be true. Brendan Schaub's stand-up has plot holes. His next banger story is that he's married to a Mexican, so his wife makes a lot of Mexican food, and it's causing him to gain weight.
And my favorite, chili. Fuck, bro! Fuck! I've never been thicker since I got with a Mexican, man. Bean cheese.
Following that engrossing epistle, our modern-day Homer relates the epic tale of how a family friend had her 15th birthday party at his house.
Not even related to us. Threw the party at my house.
And it's funny because she had it at his house instead of at her house. Shortly after the halfway point of this Homeric regalia, Brendan tells the closest thing to a joke I was able to identify.
White people, we're not like that, are we? As soon as we turn 16, we're all fucking see it, Peter and Debbie, and fucking...
Ha! White people, am I right, guys? Next, he goes into another anecdote about couples therapy, but I was so mentally exhausted from the Herculean effort of paying attention to this flesh-eating virus of a stand-up show that I just checked out. I have no memory of what he said, so I'm just going to have Karen iPhone read my notes.
This is some of the lowest effort shit I have ever seen in my life. Me fucking me. Okay. Here's an idea, Brendan. How about you just tell a fucking joke? Something like, what do you get when you cross Brendan Schaub with a barrel of radioactive waste? An improvement.
Next, Brendan Schaub makes an annoying noise. Then, as his audience looks on with bated breath, Brendan regales them with the tale of how he looked through a phone app once.
Listen, dude. I scroll that app for hours looking for real crime. I'm like, come on, dude.
This isn't even anti-comedy. It's not even bad taste comedy. At least with bollocks like Velma or She-Hulk, I can enjoy the catharsis of tearing the nominal jokes apart, of opposing them on the field of cultural battle. But Schaub's fucking shit isn't anything. It is pure, concentrated tedium and nothing more. There's no theme or topic or controlling idea. It's just some dickhead talking about the banalities of his boring life for a 25-minute period that is so long. I am convinced that Brendan Schaub has discovered the secret of time dilation. It's almost as long as Brendan Schaub's dick.
Goddamn dick's down to here. Just fucking...
Next, our modern-day Cicero makes another annoying noise. Schaub's stand-up has a spirit-crushing effect. I was in a really good mood before I watched the Gringo Pappi. I was working on this script, I was in the zone, I was laughing at some of the jokes I came up with. I was having a good time. Then I watched the Gringo Pappi, and in the space of 25 minutes, I went from cheery and upbeat to completely miserable. I felt drained by the end of this, like Brendan Schaub had reached into my being and pulled all happiness from me. Shortly after the 20-minute mark, Schaub unleashes his masterpiece, his magnum opus, the monument that will stand as a testament to his comic greatness, the piece that will ensure that one day Schaubsperian scholars will turn to their grandchildren and say, did you know that before Brendan Schaub was a stand-up comedian, he appeared on many episodes of the Joe Rogan podcast due to popular demand? Schaub's closer is his Dark Side of the Moon, his Paradise Lost, his Ulysses, an anecdote about a mountain lion. So basically, Schaub gets woken up in the middle of the night several times by a noise. So he buys a gun, then the next time the noise occurs, he opens the door and sees a mountain lion in his yard, then gets scared and shuts the door, then the next day he texts the following to his Ring security group chat.
Yo, we got a mountain lion problem, y'all.
And with that, Schaub's name went down in history. Joyce, Orwell, Swift, Suetonius, and now Schaub. True giants of thought and philosophy, but not as giant as Brendan Schaub's dick.
Still got the big dick, not a big deal.
It took Schaub 5 minutes to relate his mountain lion story, his punchline.
I got on that Ring app the next morning and went, yo, we got a mountain lion problem, y'all.
That's not only the punchline to his anecdote, that's the sign-off to his stand-up comedy special.
I got on that Ring app the next morning and went, yo, we got a mountain lion problem, y'all.
Now it's just my time. I love you guys.
Still need a girl with the thickness. Throw me the gloves, I'ma beat that shit up for that girl on some fighter and kid shit.
Holy shit. It would take a literary genius of the caliber of William Shakespeare or Brendan Schaub to create the correct combination of words and neologisms to even begin to relate how bad the Gringo Pappi is. I would rather spend 30 minutes listening to Room on Fire than watch the Gringo Pappi again. I would rather spend 30 minutes getting a triple colonoscopy at the Greenhouse Clinic than watch that. I would rather go on a 30-minute coffee date with Carrie Mulligan than watch the Gringo Pappi again.
So, what have you been up to lately?
Fuck you!
Sorry, personal question, I guess. Nice weather today, though, right?
Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you, man. Get the fuck out.
And I'm not going to compare Schaub's stand-up to actual stand-up. That would be completely pointless. That's like comparing Facebook in 2009 to Facebook today.
Is there anyone alive out there?
Here is the last comment I will make on the subject of the Gringo Pappi. The most boring people I have met in my life all had something in common. They only talked about themselves and nothing else. I have wasted enough of my life on the Gringo Pappi, so let's finish by relating the thoughts of some of Schaub's other victims who shared their opinions on the Gringo Pappi on its YouTube comment section.
Walked in on my kid watching this today, saw him giggling too. I hope one day he puts 2 and 2 together and realizes why I left.
I made my kid watch this when he was grounded as punishment for getting 2 Fs. He's now a straight A student and president of the student council. True story.
Brendan Schaub is to comedy what Brendan Schaub is to MMA.
This isn't a comedy special, it's special comedy.
Well, he's definitely standing up. So he's 50% of the way there.
Haven't laughed this hard since my dad died.
Came for the comments, stayed for the comments.
My favourite joke was when the Mexican mum thought everyone could fit in the small car, but Brendan thought they couldn't all fit in the small car, and then it's revealed they all fit in the small car.
Sure enough, we fit, y'all. We fucking fit, man, yeah. Look, narrow it right down, so I'm like, ooh, let's see what's popping in this new neighborhood of mine. 2 doors down, Jerry goes, hey, man, this mountain lion ain't...
Next up, She-Hulk. Even though it was released not 2 years ago, She-Hulk is today remembered for only 2 reasons. The first, a scene of She-Hulk twerking with some rapper. This scene has come to represent the lows to which Marvel sank during Phase 4. The second reason is the horrendous CGI. She-Hulk's CGI stands as a kind of monstrous green testament to the forsaken depths to which CGI plunged as a result of the massive oversaturation of superhero content at the time, which strained FX companies far beyond breaking point. Other than that, She-Hulk has essentially disappeared from cultural memory. Just another $250 million capital ship sent to the bottom during the Great Culture War. A great bloated Hulk that blundered into enemy territory, fired off a few clumsy shots, then was shot to shreds under the wilting fire of 1 million small arms, fired off by an army of commenters, reviewers, YouTubers, and eventually even the mainstream press. Today, She-Hulk's ruin can still be seen on the abandoned salt flats of Disney+. The final reported production budget of She-Hulk was $225 million, and She-Hulk was not Echo, a carcass of a show that Disney tried to bury in the January content swamp, hoping to God no one would notice. She-Hulk was a flagship product. Disney didn't make public how much they spent on marketing this disaster, but it was probably well over $100 million. The show was a miserable flop. It received a Metacritic audience rating of 2.7 out of 10 and was widely regarded as the worst Marvel project until The Marvels was released the next year. The She-Hulk creative team setup adhered to the principles of identity hiring. She-Hulk was She-Hulk, a female superhero, so the creatives all had to be female. It had an all-female writing team, a female director, and the entire project was led by executive producer Jessica Gao. Gao wrote 3 of She-Hulk's 9 episodes herself. Episode 1.
When I'm catcalled in the street, when incompetent men explain my own area of expertise to me.
Episode 2.
I am totally qualified, but now everyone around here is always going to think this is the only reason I got the job. It's so unfair.
And the finale, episode 9.
Yeah, come at me, bro!
Rather than attempt to write a good show that viewers would enjoy, She-Hulk's writing team disappeared up their own arse and decided to make a super clever meta show that would own the chuds in the culture war by being a showcase for modern corporate feminism.
You know, you've seen this show, so you know that baked into it is the idea that we're going to come under fire no matter what. To me, it's exciting. It's engagement. You know, if people are saying bad things, they're still paying attention.
The little troll that lives inside of me was utterly delighted that we were able to troll the trolls.
And the writers would impress everyone with how meta and self-aware their show was.
Oh, and Bruce swooping down from literal outer space to save the day in my story?
That style of 2010's fourth wall breaking millennial humor, perfected by Ryan Reynolds in Deadpool, had worn paper thin by the early 20s, and when She-Hulk came out containing jokes like this,
the defendant's client list be rejected, as it's not relevant to the litigation.
Who's this asshole?
It just felt dated, desperate, and cheesy, like a drunken uncle at a wedding pulling moves that went out of style 20 years ago to prove to the kids that he's still got it. Fourth wall breaking meta humor gasped out its last suffocated breaths a few months later with the release of Velma. When Velma Season 2 released earlier this year to an audience of a few YouTubers trying to content farm, the fourth wall breaks felt like something from a bygone era. It wasn't cheesy or cringe anymore, it was just pathetic. It was like a hair metal band in the mid-90s releasing yet another arena rock album with big drums, big guitars, big hair, and a personality shot album cover of aging rockers who refuse to let go of the past and move on in their creative journey.
Don't stop believing.
It was like a prog rock album showing up in the late 90s with a garishly hideous cover consisting of a single word in hippie font.
Wish I knew, wish I knew, wish I knew.
The Velma Season 2 production even toned down the anti-white jokes a little due to the backlash from Season 1. Velma Season 2 was so dated, boring, limp-dicked, and unwatched that it was almost kind of sad. It was like watching a bully from last school year who squared up to the wrong guy and got the shite kicked out of him, come back after summer break a broken, weak, timid, and pathetic wee wimp, and you almost feel sorry for him until you remember what an absolute wanker he was to everyone. Michelle Gao's overriding concern with She-Hulk was entirely identity politics driven. Make the women look great and the men look dumb.
Yeah, come at me, bro!
Velma is She-Hulk's spirit sister. Both shows were released around the same time. Both had the explicitly stated goal of taking a DEI wrecking ball to a beloved franchise. Both masqueraded as a comedy by utilizing turgid, worn-out fourth-wall meta-humor. Both were led by spiteful feminists eager to inflict as much misery on the male-dominated fan base as womanly possible. Both were widely despised, and both were total failures. A DEI project is like a skag binge. It's great fun at the time, but there's a massive price to be paid for it afterward. When the activist showrunner is high out of her mind on virtue signaling, identity politics, and chud scolding, she thinks she's got it going on. She's the center of the party, the main character in a world of NPCs, the focal point of the cultural conversation, the face on the front cover of the internet. But when her project inevitably fails and she loses her supply of skag, the high wears off and the come down starts. Here's an old example of an actress high out of her mind on identity skag.
I do not need a 40-year-old white dude to tell me what didn't work for him about A Wrinkle in Time. It wasn't made for him.
Yeah, it was fun at the time, wasn't it, Brie? But not so fun now that you're a middle-aged has-been with a burned-out husk of a career and no fan base. And I don't hold anything against Brie Larson. She was clearly given awful advice by the sycophantic hangers-on that surrounded her at the time, and in the years since, she has quieted down and no longer engages in such grandiose wankery, and she is a good actress. In Room, she was great in Room. She was terrible as Captain Marvel. That was Marvel's worst ever casting choice by far. But there's no denying that her career has cratered. For all her activism and dedication to the cause, Hollywood have left her high and dry. They don't give a fuck about her. They don't care that she's an Oscar winner. They know she's unpopular and they won't put her in big projects anymore. What, did you think you would be rewarded by the establishment for your bitter rants and angry feminist interviews?
So you don't do...
I do all my stunts.
I did my stunts because I thought that that's what everyone did, and then
Tom Cruise over here.
No, I'll be the first me, not the next Tom Cruise. Thank you very much.
Wow.
No. It's Hollywood, and you're a pawn. You will be sacrificed in the ongoing culture war, and there's a line of girls the length of Brendan Schaub's dick waiting in line to suck the diseased cock of some lecherous Hollywood executive and take your place. And let's check in on She-Hulk's lead actress, Tatiana Maslany. Since She-Hulk, she has done some voice acting work on 3 no-name animated productions, but hasn't landed any significant roles. During the She-Hulk Identity Skag binge, Maslany said the following.
It's so true. There's so much resistance to a woman just existing in that space of superheroes.
When asked about the negative response to She-Hulk by the toxic male fandom, Maslany responded,
I sort of anticipated it. It's why I also feel it's important. There's such an entitlement to space held by certain people, and to even exist as She-Hulk is like a fuck you. and I love that.
Maslany was fully on board with the feminist wrecking ball approach to She-Hulk, and when the failed show was shit-canned by Marvel, she was out of work, and has remained out of work. During the Madam Web shit show, Sydney Sweeney proved that an actress can actually increase her popularity on the back of a failed project if she plays her cards right.
You might have seen me in Anyone But You or Euphoria. You definitely did not see me in Madam Web.
Sydney Sweeney didn't attack fans, she didn't call men sexist for not showing up to her movie, or trot out the identity politics buzzwords like space, entitlement, and certain people. She just cracked a nice smile, got her tits out, told a few jokes, and laughed off Madam Web's well-deserved failure. Nice. Maslany had her chance to build her popularity and earn the goodwill of the fans during the She-Hulk debacle, and she fucking blew it, opting instead to get in on the identity politics binge and raise a middle finger to anyone who didn't give her a big pat on the back for it, and now she can't get work. Cry me a fucking river. In another tragic tale of a great talent torn away from our screens by fate, in January 2024, in an announcement mourned by approximately as many people as there are Oscars in Carey Mulligan's Oscar cabinet, Brendan Schaub announced that he is quitting stand-up comedy. So, yeah, sorry guys, but see Brendan Schaub live is gonna have to come off the bucket list, but you can always jump into a barrel of radioactive waste. Here's a clip of activists on the identity politics binge du jour.
I want to ask you both, because this is, I would say, arguably the gayest Star Wars, I think, by a considerable margin, and are you excited about that?
Star Wars. Not that.
It's pretty
Because nerds are gay.
Well, some nerds are very not gay and are very threatened by gay
Well, that's
stuff.
true. But
Yeah.
in my world, nerds are gay. I think that Star Wars is so gay already. Look how gay this is.
The last DEI project I'm going to briefly touch on is the most recent incarnation of a zombified corpse of a franchise that refuses to do us all a favor and lay down in its grave where it belongs. Star Wars. The project in question is, of course, the Acolyte. The Acolyte has been a gift for content creators. YouTube is currently awash with videos about the show. It has generated a vast quantity of ad revenue for many YouTubers across the content spectrum. The Acolyte is the most generous gift since Davis was given enough pounds to buy a small mansion. The series is terrible, obviously. The dialogue, acting, pacing, and editing are all dreadful. As of the writing of this script, the first 3 episodes have been released. I will be doing a review of The Acolyte, but it will be a full season review. For now, I am content merely to observe while the great mass of YouTube content creators do to The Acolyte what the Greenhouse Gang did to Davis. Rather than blow my load on what is admittedly a tempting target in the first 3 episodes, I am content merely to wait and watch until the season climax before I thrust myself upon it. What I will say is that Kathleen Kennedy has once again proven that she is both the worst Hollywood executive of all time and the worst perpetrator of DEI-focused projects to date. The Acolyte is under the dictatorial control of an identity politics-obsessed moron, and her show, far from being the bold, subversive statement she no doubt imagines, is exactly what we all expected. Strong, powerful black female not evil twin will turn out to be fully justified in her murder of 4 Jedi, and whoever else got in her way because she no doubt has a tragic backstory, and when a woman with a tragic backstory goes on a murder spree, or commits serial genocide, or murders a goat, or tries to bleach her husband to death,
That means that it is not illegal.
Yord is a man, so his function is to be constantly torn down and upstaged by the female characters around him.
Then we bring him back to the ship for questioning.
Or we skip that, and she just talks to him.
Padawanker is an annoying wee bitch who never misses an opportunity to humiliate Yord and put him in his place.
Yord, put your clothes on.
Trinity was in the show for a bit, but she's dead because in a bold, stunning, brilliant, and highly original move, Leslie Squareheadland killed her off in the opening scene. Wow. Fronting a production with a well-known actress in the marketing of a project, then killing that actress off in the opening scene. How subversive and original. That was never done before, almost 30 years ago in Scream, with Drew Barrymore. The rest of the cast is rounded out by merchandise placement, strong, powerful black female good twin, Master Jedi Jungjae, or Triple J, Karen Green from HR, who is played by Leslie Square Headland's wife, and could not act her way through her own front door by pretending to be Leslie Headland's wife. And the big bad is Kylo Rentboy, who always wears a gimp mask and will probably turn out to be a woman, in which case we'll have to rename her Kyla Rentboy. I'm guessing Kylo Rentboy is She-Bowser, strong, powerful black lesbian female communist witch leader's wife. I have also heard it speculated that Kylo Rentboy is Darth Plagueis, but who's to say Darth Plagueis isn't a woman? In episode 3, we are introduced to the Lesbienne Gesserit, also known as the Scissor Sisterhood. They come with their own Reverend Mother and brand of witch magic. The Lesbienne Gesserit is led by strong, powerful female communist witch... just super diversity goddess. A strong, diverse, powerful female lesbian witch communist who will no doubt also turn out to be an innocent victim of Jedi brutality. The only white men in episode 1 are a criminal trying to organize a prison ship breakout and a criminal who runs off like a coward, leaving the strong, powerful female character of color who saved him for shit. This portrayal of white men as criminals is at least accurate since, as anyone who has ever seen a Ring advertisement is aware, white men commit all the crime. Episode 2 and 3's solitary white man is Master Yes, a 70s prog rocker identified by Echo Chamberlain as a former member of Yes. He has been meditating for 10 years in a futile quest to find absolution for Yes's 1997 album Open Your Eyes. Not Evil Twin tells Master Yes to imbibe Canadian healthcare after apologising to her and offering one last excuse for the abysmal failure that was Yes's Open Your Eyes.
Forgive me. We thought we were doing the right thing.
He does what the Strokes should have done a long time ago and ingests the Canadian healthcare. Tell you what though, man, say what you want about the album, but Open Your Eyes opening track, New State of Mind, is an absolute tune. Jedi Master Yes reappears in episode 3 as a younger man before the dark times. The Acolyte's casting, writing, dramatic beats, dialogue, and plot are not based around considerations of what would happen in world. Who would be assigned to the societal and professional roles within that world, or how such a story as the one presented on screen would play out in the Star Wars galaxy. They are based around real-world political imperatives. Why does Yord make a perfectly reasonable suggestion only to have it shot down and be put in his place by Padawanker? Is it because this is a realistic depiction of that time and place in this story world, one in which Padawans insolently snap at their superiors? No, this exchange is in the show because Yord is a man and Padawanker is a woman. That same principle applies to everything in this show. This is not a galaxy far, far away. This is miserable old right here and right fucking now in downtown LA in current year. And if you don't like it, you're a sexist or racist or homophobe or whatever it says on the talking points. Just check with Karen Green from HR. Before The Acolyte, Disney Lucasfilm's worst production was undoubtedly The Reva Show, which is memorable only for Ewan McGregor's guest appearance as Obi Wan Kenobi, and for its awesome takedown of mansplaining.
Excuse me, but a fire cannot burn in the vacuum of space. You see, fire requires oxygen to burn, and there is no atmosphere in space, so this would be impossible.
After the first 2 episodes of The Acolyte, I thought the show would get worse, but that, by the time it was all over, Obi Wan Kenobi would still just about be the worst Disney Lucasfilm production. Then, this happened. And then we all realised that what we thought was rock bottom in the Obi Wan Kenobi series was actually the middle, and far, far, far below this was waiting for us. The Acolyte cost $180 million. That's 12 The Iron Claws. It's 15 Godzilla -1s. It's 60 Whiplashes. DEI is ruining modern entertainment not only because of what is being made, but what is not being made. Big IP projects helmed by box tickers with an agenda have absorbed billions of dollars in production budgets over the past decade. The projects mentioned in this video constitute only a small fraction of the diversity-obsessed dross Hollywood has excreted during the current year era. But to get an idea of the talent, potential, and cultural wealth that has been squandered, let's add up the budgetary cost of only the projects mentioned in this video. Karen iPhone, hit that shit. The Reva Show featuring Obi Wan Kenobi cost $90 million. Bros cost $22 million. The Marvels cost $275 million. Rings of Power is the most expensive production of all time, with a total cost of over $1 billion. Blue Beetle cost $125 million. Echo cost $40 million. Phoebe Waller-Bridge's physical presence in the general vicinity of Jennifer Salke cost $60 million. She-Hulk cost $225 million. Velma probably cost around $50 million. The Acolyte cost $180 million.
We thought we were doing...
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I feel compelled to point out that since Jedi Master Yes has not spoken in 10 years, his laryngeal muscle would have undergone significant atrophy, and his voice would be extremely weak at best, and at worst, he would have completely lost the ability.
That's a total of $2 billion. And that is production costs only. That figure does not include marketing, merchandising, and bribes to shill media for positive reviews. $2 billion given to people who think that fires can burn in space, not wanting to watch Billy Eichner get fucked makes you homophobic, and that ships float because they look at the sky.
For unlike the stone, her gaze is not downward but up.
For $2 billion, you could make Trainspotting 446 times. And yes, I did adjust the Trainspotting budget for inflation. You could make American Beauty 72 times. The Banshees of Inisherin was one of the best movies of 2022. It cost $20 million. The Iron Claw is a great, overlooked movie from last year. It cost under $16 million. Over 50,000 scripts are submitted to the Writers Guild of America every year. How many great projects are being cast aside in favor of big budget, big IP garbage that ends up getting taken over by activists who want to make it all about them?
By a considerable margin. And
how many great screenwriters or directors never got a break because they're straight white men? How many iconic movies never got made because the studio was more interested in
eat it up. Go play okay, 3, 2, 1. The power of
desecrating the Terminator franchise, humiliating Kyle Reese, and giving the badass action role to midget Queen of Dragons?
Come with me if you want to live!
Or murdering John Connor and giving the savior of mankind role to Latina midget?
We should be fighting the machines.
Okay, I must stop you right there. I can't be in this space and not push back on this. I think I'm becoming an incel just listening to your cringe video. Okay, let's unpack this. Audiences are only willing to show up to the theater to see big budget spectacle. The superhero era upped the ante so much that if there isn't some giant CGI monstrosity blowing up on screen, audiences want no part of it. And IP is king. Non-IP projects have no chance of competing with well-established, popular and in-demand franchises like Marvel, Star Wars, The Terminator, Doctor Who and Disney live-action remakes. Funding indie movies is simply not a viable commercial model for big Hollywood studios.
No, non-playable sheep. Perhaps I overestimated the positive effects of your recent exile. Funding small-budget indie movies can be massively profitable, and Hollywood should be doing more of it, not less. In 2023, Five Nights at Freddy's, a movie which cost $20 million, made almost $300 million at the box office. The Sound of Freedom made $250 million on a budget of $14.5 million. Anyone But You made $220 million on a budget of $25 million. And the best indie movies of the past last couple of years, The Iron Claw, Anatomy of a Fall, The Zone of Interest, Banshees of Inisherin, and Blackberry, to name a few, all made a sizable profit, Hollywood need to stop giving vast sums of money to activist idiots who view movie and TV productions as their personal political project and get back to funding talented filmmakers with no regard to sex, race, religion, or any of the rest of that shite that the vast majority of audiences do not give a fuck about. People just want a good movie. They just want to be entertained. No Westerner who watched Godzilla -1 cared that it was an all-Japanese cast. It was a great movie. Everybody loved it, and it deservedly pulled in 10 times its budget in box office. Godzilla -1 did not suffer from a lack of representation. It was not made worse by the absence of a gay kiss, or a girl boss, or Carey Mulligan screaming at a random man in a bar. Great movies existed before DEI, and they will continue to exist when that wretched curse upon mankind is banished from the realm of the living. All of the franchises non-playable sheep just named are failed franchises, eviscerated by identity politics. Marvel went full MCU, abandoning their core audience, and were abandoned in turn by audiences. Disney Lucasfilm attempted and failed to turn Star Wars into a girl brand. They lost the legacy fanbase and failed to build a new one. Star Wars is now a zombie franchise. The Terminator's last effort, 2019's Dark Fate, was yet another ill-fated attempt to make mankind's savior a woman, and it was one of the biggest box office bombs in history. Doctor Who... well, at least gay black men can look at it and see a reflection of themselves.
Reflection of myself.
So I guess that's something. And Disney live-action remakes in which an old movie is plagiarized and desecrated for a modern audience have become the most hated movie genre by far. Lar 18 flopped, and Lar 19 was so unpopular in concept that Disney have had to reshoot it, and the trailer for Lar 11.2, Mufasa, was ratioed into oblivion, and the movie is going to bomb. Now, I could go into the arguments for DEI and refute them. I could go over many examples in other industries of how it has been destructive. I could talk about what happened to G4 TV when they decided to hire a lesbian feminist as a presenter, completely disregarding even a cursory consideration of her suitability for the role, and assert that if DEI continues, society itself will go the way of G4 TV. I could appeal to the Magna Carta or the American Constitution or any number of other historical and legal documents detailing the rights of man, but I'm not going to do any of that because I don't need to. I reject DEI because it is casteism. Plain and simple. DEI is an attempt to formalize the intersectional caste system and impose it upon the West, to assign people value or lack thereof according to their racial and sexual characteristics and religious beliefs, and bestow status and position in society according to the individual's calculated value, that is, their position within the caste system. Higher castes will be favored and lower castes will face active discrimination. That is why morons get to helm a $180 million Disney Lucasfilm project. It's why Trinity gets to go down fighting while Jedi Master Yes gets Canadian healthcare. And why, according to Film Threat, almost all white male screenwriters in Hollywood right now cannot get work.
I went to meet with an agent because I wanted to pitch my animated show, and he straight up said, it's hard to sell an older white male right now. I can't get an agent to even get me in the room.
Recently, the WGA, the Writers Guild of America, demanded all of their members inform the guild of their sex, race, religion, gender identity, and disability status, so the guild can know who should get work and who shouldn't. That's illegal, by the way. But when has that ever stopped Hollywood?
I turned to Nick and said, everyone in the cast should be openly LGBTQ.
Long term, these casteist barbarians want their new caste system protected by law and infused so deeply into the social fabric that it eventually becomes accepted as a fait accompli, and many people simply resign themselves to this new order, feeling there's nothing they can do about it. They're just Dalits, after all. That is not progressive. that is regressive, deeply regressive. Intersectionalism aims to send the social structure of the West back 700 years to the feudal age, a new caste system to entrench power and create client groups who will protect power long term, the abandonment of universal rights in favor of a multi-tiered legal system, a new elite of titled nobility.
She will be the first Black woman, the first out LGBTQ plus person to serve in this role, which is amazing.
And the creation of a new serfdom who will own nothing, rent everything, and be happy. DEI is a cancerous, destructive force that morally and qualitatively degrades everything it touches. It must be rejected. Simply put, Martin Luther King was right when he said,
"We hold these truths to be self-evident.
The Acolyte has to be the worst piece of shit I've ever had the misfortune to suffer through." Oh, no, wait, that was Brendan Schaub's stand-up comedy specials. Davis might have had his ass turned into a torn-up triple cream chocolate eclair, but at least he didn't have to endure the Gringo Pappi.
Girl, spicy? You know what spicy means? Their ass.
I had originally intended to include a section on the Terminator in this video about how the Terminator franchise was destroyed by an obsessive insistence on the insertion of two core political elements. One, subverting the damsel in distress trope of the original movie and replacing it with the update for a modern audience version, the girl boss who don't need no man trope.
Now, soldier!
2. Forcing a female saviour into the role previously occupied by John Connor. This approach made Kyle Reese redundant and the Protector T-800 obsolete, rendering both Terminator Genesis and Terminator Dark Fate dramatically and thematically sterile. These two movies made many other mistakes, but those were the two big ones. Instead of doing a Terminator section, I decided to save the downfall of the Terminator franchise for a future dedicated video and finish this video on a positive note. Brendan Schaub's stand-up, Zombie Star Wars, and The Strokes is enough misery for one video. We don't need to go into why the murder of John Connor was the single worst moment in Hollywood history. Instead, let's have some fun. Karen iPhone, hit that shit. Alright boys and girls, I know you do box ticking here at 20th Century Fox, which I support. I love DEI. I'm a big fan of the Didn't Earn It program, and I am sensitive to the fact that being at the top can be stressful, especially for women, what with all these men around glaring at you. But hey, it beats fetching coffee and giving blowjobs, am I right, girls? Right, well, I know you're busy people, so let's get on with the pitch. So as you know, the Terminator franchise is in the shitter. The last movie, what was that piece of shit called? I can't remember. The one with the Latina midget. That movie bombed. By the way, who was the developmentally delayed individual who decided the new John Connor was going to be a female Latina midget? I mean, that had to be a joke, right? Man, I laughed my ass off when she went full girl boss and beat up some guy 4 times her size. And what were you fucking lunatics smoking when you decided it was a good idea to have the T-800, Arnie, the machine with a human heart that delivered the iconic line,
I know now why you cry, but it's something I can never do.
Murder child John Connor in front of the audience and make his mother watch. In all seriousness, lads, that was the worst decision ever to come out of a Hollywood studio. That was worse than The Force Awakens not having Han, Luke, and Leia together on screen. Christ, man, the sheer fucking sadism. And don't even get me started on that fucking androgenator, the LGBT 1000 or whatever the hell that thing was called. That was just... But hey, let's put it all behind us and shock this corpse of a franchise back to life. Karen iPhone, hit that shit! So, Terminator Degeneration. The movie is set in current year. Our new Terminator, the T-Max, will be played by a de-aged Arnie or an Arnie lookalike. It doesn't matter, whatever's cheapest. He has been sent back 5 years through time by Terminator fans absolutely horrified by Terminator Peace and Love, a reboot released in 2027 that was decried as one of the worst things ever conceived of by man or machine. The T-Max's mission is to prevent the production of Terminator Peace and Love at all costs, and once achieved, to hijack the production to make a movie that Terminator fans will actually want to watch, called Terminator Fuck Yeah. After the standard big electrical bubble arrival, we cut to the production of Terminator Peace and Love. They're filming scene 1, in which the bones of John Connor have been dug up and immersed in pig shit as part of a witch coven peace ritual presided over by Doma Erin Innan, the new savior of mankind. Doma is a strong, powerful female lesbian communist witch and powerful leader. After the ritual, Arnold Schwarzenegger shows up playing the T-800. He's in a wheelchair now, a decrepit, pathetic old machine. He starts a conversation with mankind's new savior. The T-800 talks about how proud he is, that he has found his true purpose as an anti-gun rights activist. He excitedly begins discussing plans for his anti-gun float at next month's Pride Parade. He breaks into song as Terminator Peace and Love hits its first musical number, Judgment Day. One day there will be no judgment, all will live and love as one. One day when the guns are silent, we can together as one come. While they're doing their musical number, the T-Max walks into the office of the chief executive of 20th Century Fox with a script for Terminator Fuck Yeah. The executive tells T-Max to beat it, but reconsiders after T-Max shows him a live video of his family bound and gagged. The executive immediately makes T-Max the sole executive producer of the production. T-Max storms into the musical scene just as it's finishing, brushes Doma aside like an irksome gnat, and throws Arnie to the ground. Arnie cries out,
"Wait, this wasn't in the script."
The T-Max leans over him and says,
"The script just got an upgrade."
He stomps on Arnie's face, taking his head clean off. So the two Terminators are the T-Max and the T-800, right? Though Arnie is really just playing himself playing the T-800.
But wait! There's more!
The movie cuts to 2035, where a group of LGBTQIA2+ PFEJKGMSTNXW activists have just heard the news that the chuds in 2030 have sent the T-Max back to 2025 to prevent the production of Terminator Peace and Love. The activists decide to send their own Terminator back in time to stop the T-Max, foil the plans of the chuds, and stop production on Terminator Fuck Yeah. But they must act quickly before the T-Max can finish principal photography, which is already underway. The activists quickly agree that the Terminator should be female presenting. A prototype, the XX-1000, is quickly produced. Arguments erupt immediately among the group. Many complain that XX pushes an unrealistic standard of beauty, reinforces toxic male stereotypes of women's bodies, encourages the male gaze, and is utterly ableist. After much acrimony, the activist group splinters into two factions, the inclusivists and the pragmatists. The inclusivists take off, and the pragmatists, feeling there's no more time to waste, send the XX-1000 back immediately. XX's first action is to locate Arnold Schwarzenegger's body and revive it. She injects it with an infusion of liquid metal, turning old Arnie into a Terminator-human hybrid. So far we've got an old Arnie playing his real self playing an old pacifist fictional Terminator. Yeah, but now Arnie is playing himself who was killed while playing an old fictional pacifist Terminator, but has been revived and is now playing a fictional version of himself but as a Terminator hybrid. Now, the beautiful thing is, the liquid metal allows Arnie to take on a younger appearance, so he does some flexes to see what he's working with. The XX starts shouting orders at him, but he ignores her and takes off to the gym and starts pumping iron to see if he can get back in peak Arnie shape. The boys at the gym are impressed that a man of Arnie's age is able to get this quality of gains and start shouting encouragement at him as he takes on increasingly heavy loads.
Come on!
Production on Terminator Fuck Yeah is continuing apace. The production is filming a scene in which T-Max drives his car into a clerk at the IRS, but it's interrupted by the arrival of the XX-1000. The second XX lays eyes on T-Max, she blasts him 60 feet across the soundstage. They engage in an awesome fucking battle, tearing their way through the entire studio lot while the crew try to film it without being killed, not knowing this isn't part of the movie, given the recent and very sudden changes to the script. Now, as far as we know at this stage of the movie, there are 3 Terminators. Arnie's basically a half Terminator, but he's away at the gym showing the boys how to pose.
Never hide away. Like right now, he did like this. You know, show them the whole thing. Make the move, open up the whole body.
But wait! there's more!
While XX and T-Max are engaged in brutal Terminator warfare, a time travel bubble appears above the ground of the set, and from it emerges the Infinity 1000. Infinity 1000 is designed to resemble an 800-pound woman of colour who requires the use of a mobility scooter and an oxygen mask. Her name, Infinity, is meant to symbolise the infinity of intersectional identities she is meant to embody. She has been sent back through time by the inclusivists to ensure that the production of Terminator, Peace and Love goes ahead as planned, and that the movie adheres to the principles of body positivity and inclusion. Her programming prevents her from participating in combat, but she can engage in positive dialoguing and de-escalation.
Okay, so I'm sensing a lot of tension between you two, and I think we all need to just take a breath, step back, and hold space for each other.
T-Max and XX ignore Infinity and continue fighting. She chases slowly after them on her mobility scooter, deploying de-escalation procedures.
I've observed something I'd like to discuss. Can we explore this together in a spirit of respect and openness? I value your courage in initiating this conversation. Let's work through this together.
Infinity's protocols seem ineffective as T-Max and XX continue smashing their way through the Terminator Peace and Love set. The film crew are actually having a good time, but the director, an illegal Haitian migrant who got the gig because she claimed to have directed an indie movie in Haiti, has no idea what's going on and has completely broken down. Even her translator is struggling to understand her. Fortunately, the Infinity has response protocols for just this situation.
I want to share my perspective on this issue and would genuinely like to understand yours as well. I'm here to listen and understand your viewpoint. The goal here is to ground ourselves in a safe space.
Meanwhile, Arnie has finished his training and is now in peak shape. He has crashed the Mr. Universe competition and is competing in the finals. Many spectators cheer on the old underdog, calling this the greatest comeback in sports history. His every pose is met with rapturous applause, but throughout the tumultuous reaction, he maintains a stoic, stalwart professionalism, never losing his focus on the task at hand. After a few scenes of fighting and the almost complete destruction of the movie sets, T-Max and XX stop trying to kill each other. The sets have undergone too much damage as a result of their fight, and the Terminator production has been cancelled by the studio. T-Max has now fulfilled his primary protocol, preventing the production of Terminator Peace and Love, and he feels he has shot enough footage of Terminator Fuck Yeah to cobble something together in post. XX believes that the studio cancellation fulfills her mission protocols and is satisfied to remain non-belligerent. Infinity's protocols have been rendered null and void by the movie cancellation, and free from the restrictions placed on her by her programming, she feels compelled to give a speech to the film crew and the other Terminators.
You know, everyone, I've learned something today. We should base our viewpoints not on what is programmed into us, or the tribe we're supposed to be fighting for, but on what we see in our everyday lives. I just watched a $300 million movie production destroyed, putting thousands of people out of work and causing a confused, undocumented person to have a mental breakdown. Are these decades-old franchises really worth so much suffering and misery? Maybe it was wrong of the Terminator franchise to murder a teenage John Connor in front of his own mother and bury his desecrated body in pig shit, and maybe it was wrong of the writers of Terminator, Fuck Yeah, to have the T-Max murder everyone at the IRS then launch a nuclear war against Canada in a failed attempt to drive down real estate prices there. Those can both be great ideas in their own movies, but we don't need to crowbar them into a 40-year-old IP that became creatively inert long ago. I guess what I'm trying to say is, maybe it's time we all moved on to create new and, hopefully, better things.
The three Terminators go their separate ways. T-Max finishes a rough cut of Terminator Fuck Yeah, but the studio refused to have anything to do with it, so he does the best he can with DIY post-production and leaks it online. It becomes a cult hit, and the chuds in 2030 are reasonably happy with the result. XX becomes an OnlyFans millionaire and starts a brand of sex robots called XX Sensual, ultimately making herself a billionaire and one of the most powerful women in the world. Infinity becomes the host of a daytime TV therapy show called No Judgment Day, similar to Oprah, which is a smash hit and becomes the last rallying point for the dying body positivity movement. The inclusivists take great pride in it. In the final scene, Arnie is on stage at Mr. Universe, waiting for the announcement of the competition winner. He takes second place, but is applauded like the champion he is. The first thing he does is shake the winner's hand, and After posing for a few photos, he gives an inspiring speech.
A lot of people will tell you that you're just some old guy. And you should just give up and wait for the grave. Forget them. You still have something to give. And we might be old, or we're not done yet.